In Swallowed Star Episode 225, the Divine Eye Clan appears. Luo Feng enters the Universe Ocean and is mocked for being too weak, only for the person who mocked him to nearly fall soon after and end up needing Luo Feng to save him. After dealing with the Lord of Yuan Ao, Luo Feng obtained another top-tier true treasure, the Flame Sand Cup. Although he had not yet reached the level of a Universe Master, his combat power had already fully reached that realm. When the Chaos City Lord learned that Luo Feng possessed such strength, he decided to take him into the Universe Ocean to gain experience. The Universe Ocean was filled with countless powerful beings. Universe Masters were everywhere, and true gods could be found throughout its depths. Only in a place like that could Luo Feng truly be tempered. The Universe Ocean was completely different from the Primal Universe. Coordinates could not be confirmed there, so maps were the most important thing. Once someone became lost in the Universe Ocean, they might never find their way back. Because of this, one had to leave an avatar behind in the Primal Universe. Even teleportation could only be used within areas covered by the map. Unknown regions absolutely could not be teleported through recklessly. They had to be explored slowly by flying. After explaining this, the Chaos City Lord transmitted to Luo Feng the most detailed Universe Ocean map currently held by the human race. Although this map covered only a tiny part of the Universe Ocean, it already included the locations of the 3 great danger zones. Finally, the Chaos City Lord brought Luo Feng deep into the Toya Black Hole, officially beginning their journey to the Universe Ocean. Luo Feng and the Chaos City Lord entered the Toya Black Hole together. The devouring and twisting force inside was strong enough to tear a universe venerable apart instantly, but after being weakened layer by layer by the Tribulation Armor, it posed no threat to Luo Feng at all. The two soon reached the deepest part of the black hole. For the first time, Luo Feng saw the true body of the black hole. It was a black sphere 3 meters tall, its surface covered in dark golden secret patterns. It was this object that generated the endless power that had torn a giant opening nearly 10,000 kilometers wide through the membrane wall of the Primal Universe. The two passed through the opening and officially stepped into the Universe Ocean. All around them drifted mist-like chaotic air currents. The natural pressure they released alone was enough to annihilate immortal gods. They were far stronger than the chaotic air currents Luo Feng produced when using his miniature universe. The Chaos City Lord told Luo Feng that chaotic air currents were the energy source of all universes, and the purity of the chaotic air currents in the Universe Ocean was far beyond anything in humanity's initial universe. Luo Feng turned and looked behind him. The endless membrane wall of the Primal Universe stretched across the void like a colossal curtain with no visible end. His heart was filled with emotion. He could hardly imagine what kind of courage the Origin Ancestor must have possessed back then to dare oppose such a vast existence. The Chaos City Lord said that the Origin Ancestor was the only being throughout history who had dared to contend with the Primal Universe itself. Perhaps only when Luo Feng one day roamed the Universe Ocean freely, so powerful that even experts from before the Great Destruction could not match him, would he understand the Origin Ancestor's thoughts. Afterward, the two teleported to a nearby area where 39 natural wormholes of different sizes were scattered. Luo Feng compared them with the map he had received and accurately identified wormhole number 15, the one they needed to take. Over the next 2 days, they continuously used natural wormholes to cross immense distances, combining them with teleportation to travel. This was the main method of moving through the Universe Ocean. When they emerged from a spatial vortex, Luo Feng was completely stunned by the sight before him. Floating in the void ahead was a small universe 100 million light-years in diameter. Its membrane wall was already ruined, covered in hundreds of enormous cracks and openings. Chaotic air currents freely surged through it. The Chaos City Lord brought Luo Feng through one of the cracks and entered the interior. What appeared before them was a scene of destruction. Shattered fragments of space, drifting continents and mountain ranges, and massive divine corpses slowly floating through the void. The entire universe was slowly and irreversibly collapsing. The Chaos City Lord explained that the divine kingdom of a universe strongest would eventually evolve into a small universe. Once its master fell, the small universe would become like this. So far, humanity had discovered more than 18,000 small universes, and over 99% of them were already ruined, meaning their creators had long since died. He then told Luo Feng that the powers of the Universe Ocean were mainly divided into 3 universe eras and 2 great holy lands. The current Primal Universe belonged to the Third Universe era, which was also the weakest, because it had not yet completed a full cycle of reincarnation. The experts from the first two universe eras were greater in number and stronger in power. However, there was no need to belittle themselves. When the origin ancestor dominated the universe ocean back then, he was publicly recognized as invincible. Every universe strongest had to avoid him. The two great holy lands were even more mysterious. They were small universes left behind from countless reincarnation eras ago, far larger than ordinary small universes, and they remained perfectly intact even now. The situation in the universe ocean was extremely chaotic. Experts from different eras and different factions could clash at any moment. The Chaos City Lord told Luo Feng that the three universe reincarnation eras had each split into dozens of factions. Added together, there were nearly 100 of them. However, no single faction could compare with the two great holy lands. Still, if all the forces of the entire Third Universe era were combined, their strength would surpass either holy land. Only when the two holy lands were combined could they roughly match the total strength of the Primal Universe's forces. Luo Feng was greatly shocked when he heard this. He knew very well how powerful the Primal Universe was. It had more than a dozen universe strongest beings and nearly 1,000 universe masters. For the two holy lands to be comparable to such a colossal force, their strength was unimaginable. The Chaos City Lord explained that although the Holy Lands had fewer universe masters than the Primal Universe, they had existed for countless reincarnation eras. The quality of their experts was extremely high. Anyone who dared to venture out had already comprehended an ultimate technique. Those words made Luo Feng draw in a cold breath. In the Primal Universe, possessing an ultimate technique was the mark of a top-tier universe master. He had never expected it to be standard among the experts of the Holy Lands. At that moment, the Chaos City Lord took out a transparent crystal sphere. Inside it was the highest-level confidential information humanity had gathered over endless years about experts from every era and Holy Land. He told Luo Feng to destroy it immediately after reading it. After Luo Feng finished looking through it, a strong sense of danger rose in his heart. Only then did he realize that the strength he had considered decent in the Primal Universe was far from enough in the entire universe ocean. Even compared with ordinary experts from the Holy Lands, he could only rank near the bottom. The Chaos City Lord comforted him, saying that although he could not defeat them now, his ability to preserve his life was sufficient. After saying this, he continued traveling with Luo Feng. On the 6th day after entering the universe ocean, they arrived at a dangerous region called the Tremor Sand River. The Chaos City Lord warned Luo Feng that although this place was far inferior to the three great danger zones, if he charged in recklessly, he could still fall there. Even the Chaos City Lord himself had to be extremely careful inside, and absolutely could not teleport casually. He also told Luo Feng that humanity currently knew of more than 3,000 dangerous regions in the universe ocean, and that number was still increasing. The two great holy lands definitely knew even more, but they would never share that information with other factions. 2 more days passed before they finally reached their destination. Qingfeng Realm, one of the 3 great danger zones of the universe ocean. Luo Feng stared in amazement. He had seen the map before and knew that Qingfeng Realm's main mountain was over 98 million light-years tall. The broken rocks that looked like tiny pebbles from a distance were actually several light-years wide each. The Chaos City Lord introduced Qingfeng Realm to him. It was divided into the outer region, inner region, and core region. The outer region was relatively less dangerous, but it could still kill universe masters with weak survival abilities. The inner region was extremely dangerous, and even the strongest universe masters could die there. As for the deepest core, even universe strongest beings who entered might never return. After entering the outer region of Qingfeng Realm, they encountered an expert from the Jiao clan of the First Universe era. When the other party saw the Chaos City Lord, a trace of fear flashed in his eyes, and he immediately teleported away. Only then did Luo Feng learn that the Jiao clan had long been wiped out in the Primal Universe, yet in the First Universe era, it had developed into a peak race. The Chaos City Lord said that the giant axe founder was currently inside Qingfeng Realm, so most of the experts from humanity and the Hong Alliance had gathered there. Soon after, the two arrived at a canyon on a massive mountain rock. Inside the canyon stood a divine palace. There were 5 universe masters inside and outside the palace. 3 were humans, while the other 2 came from other races within the Hong Alliance. When they saw the Chaos City Lord bringing Luo Feng over, everyone warmly came forward to greet them and welcomed Luo Feng with smiles. As soon as Luo Feng arrived at humanity's temporary gathering point in Qingfeng realm, he met 7 universe masters waiting there. The Lord of Yuan Ao belonged to the same origin ancestor lineage as him, so their conversation felt especially close. The Lord of Panggong explained that the other universe masters had gone deep into Qingfeng realm's dangerous regions. Some would only emerge after 100 years, while others might take several eras, so they could not come to welcome him. Following the rules of the Universe Ocean, the Chaos City Lord held a simple welcome ceremony for Luo Feng. Everyone raised their cups together and wished him endless treasures and eternal life. After all, every step in the Universe Ocean was dangerous. Even universe masters could fall there. This blessing was the most sincere hope of all adventurers. The straightforward Lord of 𝐒𝐰𝐴 immediately said that Luo Feng's current strength was only suitable for moving through the outer region together with others. If he wanted to search for treasures alone, he was far from qualified. In particular, if he encountered the frenzied experts of the First Universe era, he could very likely suffer disaster. Even if he had avatars to preserve his life, the treasures on him would be lost. The Lord of Donghua also added that the reason experts of the First Universe era were so frenzied was because all-powerful beings could live through at most 3 universe reincarnation eras. They had already reached their final deadline, so they could only desperately temper themselves in search of a breakthrough. Only the 2 great holy lands were exceptions. The Chaos City Lord also solemnly reminded Luo Feng to be cautious of experts from the First Universe era. The Lord of 𝐒𝐰𝐴 repeatedly urged him to call for help from the Hong Alliance the moment he encountered danger. Although Luo Feng felt somewhat displeased, he knew the other party meant well and did not argue. After the other universe masters left, the Lord of 𝐒𝐰𝐴 continued discussing Luo Feng with the Lord of Langen. He believed Luo Feng's strength was at the bottom. In his previous fight with the Lord of Banff, Luo Feng had been suppressed and had only barely managed to resist by relying on his miniature chaotic world. A large-scale secret technique like that consumed enormous energy and had limited use against true experts. He believed Luo Feng only possessed so many treasures because of the protection of the human race and the Chaos City Lord. If Luo Feng ventured alone, he would suffer a great loss sooner or later. The Lord of Langen agreed with him. The Chaos City Lord also left afterward, telling Luo Feng to contact him through the virtual universe if anything happened. Luo Feng was the only one left in the Divine Palace. He did not rush out to explore. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and began carefully organizing and studying the maps of the Universe Ocean, as well as information on the experts of the major factions. At that moment, 𝐒𝐰𝐴 contacted Luo Feng through a true treasure token. After learning that Luo Feng was in Qingfeng realm, he told him that if he encountered danger, he could ask for help, though he did not actually hope Luo Feng would do so. The scene shifted to the northern Hua snow mist region deep within the Universe Ocean. This was 𝐒𝐰𝐴's residence, a place even the major factions did not dare provoke lightly. 𝐒𝐰𝐴 told his eldest disciple, Pewdie, that he had already been disappointed by his second disciple, Flame Emperor. Although Pewdie had the weakest potential, he was the most diligent. 𝐒𝐰𝐴 gave him the same opportunity as his other disciples and bestowed upon him the wondrous divine wood he had treasured for endless eras, allowing him to venture into the Universe Ocean and temper himself. Pewdie was deeply moved and swore that he would not disappoint his teacher. After Pewdie left, 𝐒𝐰𝐴 looked toward Qingfeng realm and quietly murmured that he had waited for far too long. Luo Feng stood atop a massive celestial rock, gazing into the distance at the towering endless main mountain of Qingfeng realm and the enormous waterfall pouring down from it. A firm light burst from his eyes as he officially began his journey through the Universe Ocean. He teleported repeatedly, heading toward the vast water region formed by the impact of the waterfall. The outer region of Qingfeng realm was divided into the air region and the water region. The air region was relatively safe and had mostly already been explored. The real adventures and treasures were in the water region. This water region had a diameter of hundreds of millions of light-years, making it even broader than an entire human universe country. It was filled with jagged rocks and hidden dangers. In most areas, Even universe masters did not dare teleport casually and could only fly forward cautiously. The most common and terrifying danger in the water region was the water current spirits. These white, unintelligent beings came in many different forms. By borrowing the power of the water region, each one possessed strength comparable to a universe master. Luo Feng carefully entered the shallow part of the water region and began his exploration. At that same time, deep within the water region 3 million light-years away, the Lord of 𝐒𝐿 was adventuring alone. He was still resentful that humanity had focused so heavily on nurturing Luo Feng. In his eyes, Luo Feng was young yet possessed many true treasures, all thanks to the protection of the race and his teacher. He thought of how the demon race had once nurtured the Lord of Qiangzhou and believed Luo Feng would eventually become the same kind of burden, frequently calling for help from the race and causing trouble for everyone. He even made up his mind that if Luo Feng ever called for help and he had to go rescue him, he would teach Luo Feng a harsh lesson. But in the next instant, the Lord of 𝐒𝐿's expression changed drastically. He discovered that the surrounding spatial fluctuations had suddenly stopped. Not far away, a powerful being appeared, his entire body radiating hazy white light. Behind his head floated a circle of white light and the phantom of a giant single eye. It was the Lord of Yuan Ao from the Divine Eye clan, one of the strongest peak races of the First Universe era. The Divine Eye clan possessed 7 universe strongest beings and was an extremely mysterious and terrifying race. As soon as the Lord of Yuan Ao attacked, he used endless grains of sand to envelop a 3 light-year radius, forming a powerful ice sand sea domain and completely cutting off the Lord of 𝐒𝐿's escape route. He calmly told the Lord of 𝐒𝐿 that life was limited and eternity was difficult to obtain. He would seek the path to eternity through endless slaughter, and today, he would take 𝐒𝐿's life. The Lord of 𝐒𝐿 knew he was no match for the Lord of Yuan Ao. All he could do was flee desperately to buy time while sending a distress signal through the virtual universe. His heart was filled with bitter self-mockery. Moments ago, he had still been mocking Luo Feng, thinking he would eventually need rescue. He had never expected that in the blink of an eye, he himself would be the one plunged into a life-or-death crisis. He knew that among the universe masters present, only the Chaos City Lord and the Lord of Panggong had the ability to save him. But those two might have already gone deep into the inner region of Qingfeng realm and would not be able to arrive in time. The distress signal was quickly forwarded to all human alliance experts in the universe ocean. The Lord of Panggong was indeed deep inside the mountain, and clearly stated that he would not make it in time. The nearest expert, the Lord of Langan, knew that his own strength was insufficient, but he still immediately set out. Luo Feng also received the distress signal. Although he had been somewhat displeased by the Lord of 𝐒𝐿's blunt words earlier, they were both part of the human alliance. More importantly, the incident had happened only a little over 3 million light-years away from him. Without the slightest hesitation, Luo Feng immediately teleported out of the water region and rushed at full speed toward the Lord of 𝐒𝐿.